Baseball is back, and the first pitch is on Netflix. The New York Yankees, led by seven-time All-Star Aaron Judge, head to the San Francisco Bay to take on Rafael Devers' San Francisco Giants. This season kicks off with one exclusive opening night game. Watch MLB Opening Night, the New York Yankees versus the San Francisco Giants, live on Netflix. Tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to the Sportsman's Voice Roundup, your weekly look at conservation and sporting community news happening across the nation and on the Hill. Thanks for tuning in. This is the TSV Roundup. Welcome back, friends. It's Wednesday, and that means it is another look at conservation news from around the nation for the week of March 23rd, 2026. This is the TSV Roundup. This week, we're bringing you our lead story from the Northeast, where we have a situation with the New Jersey Fish and Game board makeup, maybe perhaps putting some antis on that. So we're going to check in with Kaylee Leager, get the full breakdown on it here in a moment. Other stories from across the nation. Heading to the Southeast, multiple bills impacting sportsmen introduced in Louisiana as the session kicks off. Out in the Midwest, CSF-backed suppressor bill passes Kansas Senate. On the left coast, from Marie Newmiller, key wins and challenges for sportsmen and women as Oregon and Washington adjourn sine die. And finally, we wrap things up with a look at forestry from Director John Colclasure, CSF opposing Rhode Island bills prohibiting forest management for wildlife. All that and much, much more. Let us welcome in now Kaylee Leager. Kaylee, bring us up to speed on this this reoccurring issue, mainly. Well, in the two northwest, northeast corners of the country, but also in the last session, we saw some of this rearing its head in states in the southeast, Appalachia. So, what's going on in New Jersey, and speed us up here?
Okay, thanks, Fred. Yes, so something kind of interesting but not new is like you had mentioned in the intro here that New Jersey has some legislation that is seeking to appoint animal welfare representatives to the Fish and Game Council there in Jersey. So, what it currently looks like, the current composition of that Fish and Game Council includes 3 farmers, 6 sportsmen or women, 1 endangered slash non-game committee chair, and then 1 land use expert. What these bills are trying to do, so there's 2. It's Assembly Bill 2005 and then Senate Bill 471. They're seeking to remove 3 of those 6 specified seats for sportsmen and women and replace them with seats for 3 individuals from an animal welfare organization in New Jersey. So there's not a whole lot of clarity as what would constitutes or what would be defined as an animal welfare organization, but that's the language
Mhm.
that's in the bill now. And there's some efforts obviously being made and some pushes being made by those anti hunting, fishing, trapping groups there in New Jersey to get this through and to get some movement on it. So we're concerned, obviously for good reason, but that's what's going on in the Garden State.
Certainly, it would be interesting to take a look at if there's changes to qualifications. So, for the audience's benefit, not every state has a governing Fish and Game Commission board, what have you, whatever you want to call them. It's about half the country has commissions like this where authorities vested in this body, where they work with the state agency, working with those biological professionals who make recommendations for season setting, bag limits, all of that, population dynamics and goal setting throughout the state. Others don't. It's done legislatively, which is not the preferred method. But in this case, New Jersey has that. Um, and in doing so, a lot of these states in their statute have these qualifications, what you must have. And it's, for in New Hampshire, for existence, I think there's like 10 qualifications. Of those, you need to meet 5 to be considered, and you are appointed by the governor of the state. So it'll be really interesting because of the ambiguity of what animal welfare is, what that definition is, and what those qualifiers are. Are they going to look to change the current qualifications and who can get on there? Because that by itself, and again, we've seen this in other states, when they start changing and making those more broader terms of what um, recreational use is, what non-consumptive. You hear that language sometimes, which really isn't the best language, but it gets put in there. Different states from time to time. Things like holding a hunting or a fishing license, which doesn't really, in my opinion, mean a whole hell of a lot because anybody can get a hunting and fishing license as long as they've taken the right steps, right? And you got to hold that for so long because that communicates that you're active or proactive in the space. So, at any rate, I scratch my head wondering what that looks like. What you, to your point, what the ambiguity looks like around these um, concerned citizens that want that representation on the board, and it stands to reason that you have this potential for obstructionists or outright anti-hunters to get on that board and thwart the system or at least gridlock it, right? So if you got 3 on 3 and then a couple of these other ones that are you're basically vying for essentially 2 or 1 vote for a tiebreaker, you've politicized the whole thing and you've taken away the whole purpose of why that body is there. Otherwise you would just have the executive director, the commissioner, as an administrative executive appointee from the governor's office, just run the whole administrative um, philosophy and how they want to see things get done and run their agenda. So, as you said, and I don't want to speak for you on this whole thing, but it really needs to be communicated that at the very least, you get a gridlock on this. At the worst, you start getting a reversal of policy on how fish and game are managed, how non-game species are managed based on the science, and you start managing based on emotion in that social dynamic.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Fred, and like you mentioned, not every state has these boards. For example, like here in Maryland, there's a wildlife advisory commission, and it is advisory, so they're not the solely making the season dates and bag limits and everything. They're making recommendations to the Department of Natural Resources, so there's an advisory component to it, but they do not have as much teeth, if you want to say, as like for example Pennsylvania or New Jersey, where you have a board of commissioners or
Mhm.
council members or whatever it may be that are tasked with setting these seasons, dates, and bag limits based off of sound scientific wildlife management, science, all of these things. So it's definitely concerning to be removing three of the people who currently sit on that board who have hands-on knowledge. They're out in the field. I mean, the whole reason that sportsmen and women are appointed to these things is obviously, we're the primary conservationists, as we have such an intimate relationship with these species that we're tasked with protecting and conserving. So it's taking away that level of personability and intimacy from the board that's very important for making these sound biological and scientifically supported decisions. And once we do away with that, it's unfortunately it's the domino falls, and there's a lot of bad things that can happen. So I'm hoping that the legislature can see through this and can make a decision to not move this forward.
A supporting trend on that, and an issue we've raised concern or flag on over these last handful of years. You have that on the board potentially mucking things up, and the need for that on the ground experience, that lifetime of experience, or again hitting all the qualifiers. You've actually gone out there, got a line wet. You've sat in a deer stand, you sat in a duck blind, you've called a turkey in the spring, whatever, all of it. You've done it in one way or other. Understand how the system works. Understand what conservation is versus preservation. We're starting to see, again, we've raised the flag on this, the Airfinger quote wildlife professionals that come in to the state agency to work. Some of these young folks have never got their hands dirty, have never gotten a line wet. So they're coming out of higher education with this preservationist mindset hid under the guise of conservation, just from what they've learned in textbooks and their classes from their professors. That's problematic. So now, if you couple these two situations together, and if again, it further underscores the need for having people that understand and have actually gone out and done this, have seen a conifer bear set for beaver, have seen a foothole set for fox or coyote, and the benefit of all that, and know what this stuff does on the landscape and how it all works together. You start taking that away, the whole system's going to get out of whack, and you start ending up in these bad spots where you're removing trapping well, it is a money making for the state agency where trappers will go out and buy a license, and then basically you have free population control like beaver mitigation on public roadways and culverts, and all the rest of it. So the people are paying into the system, and I don't. It's an important point to make. It's a user pay public benefit model of the American system of conservation funding that we always talk about. I don't want to say that it's a pay to play because we foot the bill and we've done so for 90 years, just about, that we have sole proprietary say over it. We work in tandem, and we try to find the best solutions. But at the same time, we pay for it. We know how it works. We understand how the system works. And if others want to come in, they need to understand this is the envy of the world, how we manage wildlife, how we fund wildlife management. And they would do well to assimilate to that despite their biases, despite their anti or um, gridlock leanings, and get on board. If you can't do that, that should be an automatic disqualifier, and we move on and we find someone else that can continue to perpetuate this and think critically on these things and not lead with emotion.
Yeah, I'm right 100% there right with you. So it's frustrating for sure. And one thing too, that a sentiment that needs to be known is sportsmen and women care about this, right? Like we care about the resource, we care about the animals, we care about everything very, very dearly. So like you and I, friend, and I'm sure many other people who are listening, like this our lives revolve around hunting, fishing, trapping, recreational shooting. Like this is our livelihood, right? And you and I and other people in this space are fortunate enough to do this for a living. So we have an extra level of caring about it and blessed to be able to do so. But it engulfs our lives. And for the antis to say that we're there for the opposite reasons is just blatantly false, and it's also disingenuous. So, we care about this. We want to see our grandkids and our great
Mhm.
grandchildren not only have it as good as we did, right, but better than we had it. That's our main goal here. And so again, it's very disingenuous and disheartening to hear when people say, well, you need these types of people on the board to actually care for the animals and to protect them. That's completely false. That's what we're there for. That's what we've been for, and that's what we're going to continue to do. So, again, hoping that the legislature sees the light of day, does not move this bill forward or these bills forward, and we can put this behind us and continue with sound wildlife management.
The bills are Assembly Bill 2005, Senate Bill 471. We just rolled the calendar in New Jersey, the start of a new biennium. So stands to reason we have some time, but we don't want to, just push this thing off. What can people do, Kaylee? Who can they get in contact with to start, if they haven't already, making their feelings known about this and why this is bad for New Jersey?
Absolutely. So if you're a New Jersey resident, also obviously reach out to your state representatives, let them know that you were opposed to these two bills. If you're not a part of New Jersey, you can still reach out and let them know as from the sportsmen and women's community. Let them know, and then also, please be in contact with the New Jersey. It's the sorry, it's not the New Jersey Legislative Sportsmen's Caucus. It's the New Jersey
Angling.
Hunting
Yeah.
Conservation Caucus. They have a little bit of a different name there in New Jersey, but it's the New Jersey Angling and Hunting Conservation Caucus. Please reach out to them as well and let them know that you're opposed to this, and push them to actively fight against this as they already are currently doing.
No doubt. Kaylee, thank you for your reporting and bringing this to the fore, and alerting folks there in the Garden State and surrounding states about what's going on there. And we will look forward to hopefully some positive um, follow up reporting on this and in the future.
All right.
Kaylee, thanks so much.
Thanks, Fred.
All right. Thanks again to you, Kaylee, for her reporting there in New Jersey. We'll continue going to the southeast. This is from Mark Lance. Multiple bills impacting sportsmen introduced in Louisiana, as that session has just kicked off here recently. As of March 19th, there have been 5 bills impacting menhaden management off the coast of Louisiana. Those bills are HB 757, HB 555, HB 872, HB 886, and Senate Bill 186. You can go to the article, find out what all of those do, and then follow the in-article link to the text of those bills. Senate Bill 244 would allow the Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries Commission to establish a recreational alligator hunting season. That's pretty cool. Also, back on the 9th, the caucus member Representative Neil Reiser introduced House Bill 858, which exempts the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries global positioning system data on wildlife and aquatic life from public records. There's going to be a bill forthcoming that protects hunting and fishing license holders' personal information from public records or requests. And on the regulatory side, if all that wasn't enough, Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries is proposing yet another expansion to the annual black bear hunting season, increasing the huntable bear areas from 3 to 7 and increasing the tag allotment. So, a mixed bag of things coming out of Louisiana as the sportsman's paradise you'd expect from. So you can go check that article out from Mark and learn a little bit more and take action if so moved. This from the Midwest from Jake Gould. CSF back suppressor bill passes in Kansas Senate. This is good news here. Recently, regarding the decriminalization of suppressors, this was amended onto Kansas House Bill 2501 following the adoption of the suppressor amendments. House Bill 2501 was passed by the Senate and returns to the House for concurrence. In addition, the suppressor provisions in 2501 would also increase liability protections for FFLs and decriminalize possession of SBRs or SBSs, short barreled shotguns in Kansas. That's good news there. We'll head to the west from Marie Newmiller. Feel like this is Groundhog Day. Key wins and challenges in Oregon and Washington as the sessions adjourn there. Oregon passed House Bill 4134, increasing the statewide transient lodging tax by 1.25% to deliver approximately $38 million in new funding for the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife's conservation work. Washington Senate Bill 5098 was defeated after CSF, Washington Legislative Sportsmen's Caucus members, and coalition partners highlighted the unintended consequences for legal hunting and fishing activities on public lands. And CSF played an active role in advocating for sportsmen and women throughout both legislative sessions, ensuring the sportsman's voice was not diminished by competing priorities. Again, more in-article links on this, and you can go check out more of what Marie is reporting on in those two very challenged states, but it looks like there may be some silver linings there. Wrapping things up, we'll go up to my neck of the woods here in the Northeast in Rhode Island. This from Director of Forestry John Colclazier. CSF is opposing Rhode Island bills prohibiting forest management for wildlife. Those who listen regularly can probably guess where this is going. Back at the end of February, the Agriculture and Forestry Natural Forest Protection Act, this is House Bill 7914, was introduced to designate existing management areas as natural area preserves that would prohibit active forest management in these areas and impose management restrictions on other forest lands. On March 13th, the Old Growth Forest Protection Act, this is Senate Bill 3081, was introduced to prohibit or limit certain forest management practices on public land that benefit wildlife habitat. CSF submitted letters to the House Committee on Environment and Natural Resources, and a letter to the Senate Committee on Environment and Agricultural, uh, encouraging them to table the bills. Again, more at congressionalsportsman.org. Head to our media center and you can see all the articles as they lay out. Or while you're there, you can simply subscribe to the Sportsman's Voice EPUB. Get that in your inbox every Monday or Tuesday if there is a holiday. We don't spam you, so feel free to use your primary email so you don't miss out, but you can use your junk email that you give to everyone else for those type of things. Just don't forget to check in on Mondays. There's a lot of good information here, as I say every week, especially for you folks that are in policy making, the legislators that do tune in. Great resource here. It's free to all of you. See what's going on in the other states. A lot of collaborative efforts here that can be had. Reach out to caucus co-chairs and leadership in other states and bounce ideas off each other. This is the power of the NASC network. And if you're tuning in and you're not a member of your state legislative sportsman's caucus, it is highly recommended that you do so. Get in touch with your leadership. Get involved with NASC. Come visit us in Oklahoma in December. I know we're getting kind of ahead of it. It is only the end of March, but it will sneak up on us. Where you can get together with your fellow legislators and really just have some great conversations and learning opportunities so that when you get to your 2027 session, you can roll out some good stuff for sportsmen and women in your state, or have your colleagues yield on some bad stuff where they may not understand the consequences of their language and their bills. All that said, head to the website, check out all the stuff there and past podcasts as well. Congressionalsportsman.org. All right, we'll put a bow on it for this week. No feature. Do go back, check out the other features from weeks past. Lots of good information for you. Tons of different topics. Got some great shows lined up that we're getting ready to put in the hopper for you. Keep some things current, and also some really exciting planning coming down the line for late spring and into the summer. You guys are going to love it, and I can't wait to bring that to you. All right, y'all have a great rest of your week. As always, CSF is your inside connection to outdoor legislation. We'll see you next week. So long.
Thanks for joining us on this edition of the Sportsman's Voice podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, your support is crucial, and you can help us out right now by leaving a review, filling in those 5 stars where available, sharing this episode with friends and family, and engaging with us socially. CSF can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Together, we can protect the outdoor sports we love and continue to keep you informed wherever you are. That's it for this week. Until next time, we'll see you later.